Hello, I'm Morris Ardwin. I wrote a book about growing up in a large family that ran a little roadside motel in Louisiana in the 1970s. The book's called Stone Motel, Memoirs of a Cajun Boy. And you can get it through your local independent bookseller through the IndieBound website, which is indiebound.org. You can also get it online at barnesandnoble.com or at Amazon, as well as directly through the publisher, which is the University Press of Mississippi. Today I'll be reading from chapter 22, The Regulars. Bob Hope was just on the phone, Daddy called out to Glenda, who was passing through the office on her way to clean some rooms. He wants that number 9. Can you clean that one first? Yeah, sure, she groused between clenched teeth. She hated nothing more than having to rush to get a room clean. There's plenty of other rooms already ready to rent, she said to herself. She'd been cleaning the rooms for 2 years at that point, and just as he had done with Cassie and Eula Bell before her, Daddy could not fathom the idea that Glenda had yet figured out the things she needed to clean a motel room. Towels, soap, sheet, toilet paper, he said to Glenda, who by then had learned to shrug it off or mock him right back with his own words. Towels, soap, sheet, she said back to him. Would there be anything else? He chuckled. Toilet paper, was his sonorous reply. Bob Hope was one of a small handful of regulars. Regular customers who had established enough credibility with Daddy that they could just call ahead and leave the money in the room when they left, bypassing the check-in process and the registration chit-chat that went with it. He had been given the name Bob Hope because back when he was still registering and showing his face, I noticed he looked like the real Bob Hope. At first it was only me who called him that, just as I had called him Mr. Fontenot from Mamou, Fat's Cadillac, simply because he was fat and drove a green Cadillac, and a certain Mr. Finkelman from Opelousas, the judge. After the Opelousas Daily World reported he was running for the city judge. The shorthand made more and more sense as the years passed, so everyone, even Daddy, took to calling them by their motel names. We even went so far as to write their motel names on registration cards, because we had soon forgotten their real ones. Room 9 was situated in the former elbow of the L-shaped motel building. Before the fire 3 Christmases back, it had a narrow entryway notched out of Room 8's floor plan, which gave the room a sense of charm, of mystery, and even romance, as it provided 2 additional steps before entering the room as a prelude. After Room 8 was destroyed in the fire, the new Room 9 was reconfigured with a flat front entrance like all the other rooms. And now, instead of being the unique elbow room, its door faced the row of new rooms on the opposite side of the parking lot. No more prelude. Nonetheless, the new Room 9 was indeed one of the nicest rooms of the old section of the motel. Its furniture, TV, bath fixtures, and air conditioner were all new, purchased along with the new furniture, TVs, bath fixtures, and air conditioners acquired for the new rooms across the parking lot. The new beds all featured a simple, sleek mahogany headboard instead of the spindle, knobby oak frames of those of the 1950s and 60s. Matching nightstands, side tables, and squared-off chairs replaced the round-cornered furnishings of the earlier period. And though the rooms in the new section were all more modern than any of the old rooms, including Room 9, Bob Hope seemed to have a sentimental attachment to that room, and Daddy, if he could, always tried to accommodate his customers' wishes. This eagerness to accommodate did not extend to his black customers, however. Instead of making the registration process non-existent, or at the very least, easy for them, he often made it more of a challenge by chatting with them and greeting them with overly racist, although he denied he was in any way racist, remarks. "Look who's out of the penitentiary," was one of Daddy's favorite greetings to black men. Most black customers, the regulars anyway, had grown over the years to expect him to say something offensive under the guise of being friendly and comical, and were prepared to shrug it off, so they obliged him a chuckle to keep the transaction as brief as possible. It was just part of the price they had to pay for a room. Every now and then, however, an uninitiated black customer would walk through the office door, be greeted with something completely offensive, and actually take offense. "What did you say?" one such customer asked when Daddy greeted him with, "They let you out?" Sensing the man's discomfort, Daddy let it drop, but the man was having none of it. "What kind of a bullshit place is this?" the man asked. "You ain't getting a thin dime off of me," he said as he did an about-face and slammed the door behind him. We all had witnessed a version of this spectacle more than once, and it gave me a secret thrill to see Daddy lose a customer because of his bigotry. Perhaps the most effective way to make a point with Daddy was to hit him where it hurt most, his wallet. Thousands of customers who come and go over the 3 decades our family ran the motel. Most of these people were quickly and easily forgotten. Shortly after they turned in their keys and drove off to places near and far, someone else would arrive to take up residence, if only for an hour or two, in the same room. There were more than a handful of others, however, who left a lasting impression, whether because they became regulars like Bob Hope, the Judge, or Fats Cadillac, or because, through their check-in revelations about themselves or the evidence they left behind in their soiled rooms, their stories lived on. There was a tall, dark, and handsome man who, after years of regular patronage, turned out to be a woman. Glenda discovered this quite innocently when she opened the door to the room, thinking it vacated, to find 2 naked women, one of them clearly the man, who had been checking in all this time. In the nothing surprises me environment of the business that we operated, the revelation from Glenda seemed to embarrass her more than tickle her, as it did the rest of us, and it inspired only a shrug from Daddy. "It takes all kinds," he said when Glenda told him. "As long as their money's green, what they do is their business." We'd never know it if it was because of sheer mortification and being found out, or just coincidence, but this would be the couple's last rendezvous at the Stone Motel. Then there was a couple who left behind a red tabby cat. They called from a phone booth 100 miles down the road to say that they'd pick her up on their return, but never did. We named her Orphan. And the woman we suspected was a self-managing prostitute. When asked how long she needed the room, she responded with a hoarse giggle, "Oh, we won't be long. In fact, we're just going to be in and out and in and out and in and out." There was Mr. Wilkes, the middle school industrial arts teacher. He was clearly mortified when he realized upon check-in that I, one of his pupils, was part of the family that ran this motel. I would never know if the straight A's I made that year in his class were because I was so good at drafting or because I was even better at discretion. And of course, there was the man who never made it home after his night at the motel. Mama pulled out of the garage on the way to church that morning when Gilda in the back seat commented on the man who looked to be just getting into his car to take off. An hour later, we were returning from Mass, and it was clear that the man was in the same position, half in and half out of his car. Dickie was dispatched on Glenda's banana bike to go have a look. The man had managed to get halfway in, with one leg at the pedals and the other propping him up from the driveway. He had turned his ignition switch on just enough to engage the radio and apparently died then and there of a heart attack. "There's a dead man listening to his radio," Dickie reported excitedly when he returned after having made a few circles around the car. We came to know these people without judgment. Their lives varied. Their needs for an hour, or a day, or a week, or a month, or longer were at once none of our business and all of our business. It was our job simply to serve them. Daddy said that if we couldn't understand that and fully accept that, then we were in the wrong business altogether. This has been a reading from Stone Motel, Memoirs of a Cajun Boy, written by me, Maurice Ardouin. You can find more at www.morrisardouin.com. Thanks for listening.